All right, good afternoon, everyone. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Thank you, folks. Good afternoon. I'm Chester County District Attorney Christopher Barrena-Sarobe. Today, we are here to announce the arrest with members of the Pennsylvania State Police of Allen Gould. He's been arrested for killing his wife, Anna Maciejewska. He killed his wife in the spring of 2017. Specifically, Gould is charged with murder in the first degree, tampering with evidence, and other related charges. To this day, Anna's body has not been found, but we still have substantial evidence that proves Gould killed his wife, which is why he was charged. Before I go further, I want to address a few preliminary matters. First, I need to remind everyone, just like anyone in any criminal case, the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Second, as some of you know, Anna and the defendant have a young son. I'm not going to be answering questions about him today. I want to make that perfectly clear up front. What I will say is that steps have been taken to make sure that he is safe. And finally, I want to introduce everyone to members of an amazing team that are standing with me today, many of whom put in a tremendous amount of work over the course of 8 years to get this case to this very point. So to my right is the team from the Pennsylvania State Police: Trooper Jason Sperazza, Corporal David Brodeur, Captain Robin Brown, Lieutenant Michael Stoner, and Lieutenant Joshua Lacey. To my left is the team from my office: Lieutenant Maurice Maciejewska, Deputy District Attorney Michelle Fry, Deputy District Attorney Jessica Urich, First Assistant Aaron O'Brien, and Chief of Staff Michelle Barone. So on April 12th, 2017, Anna was reported missing to the Pennsylvania State Police by the defendant, Allen Gould. Gould reported that he had last seen his wife rushing to work to get to a meeting she left in her Audi sedan on the morning of April 10th. He also said to investigators that she had left her cell phone on the counter in the family home because it was still updating. Our investigation revealed that Anna had actually disappeared multiple days before. In fact, the defendant wasn't the first person to report his own wife missing to the Pennsylvania State Police. That was actually coworkers. So since that first report, investigators from PSP have worked to collect information about Anna, about her routine, looking to compare how she lived her life before and after her disappearance. Right, that data involved a collection of cell phone records, financial records, but also witness accounts from friends, family, neighbors, acquaintances, people that knew her very well. And these accounts demonstrate that Anna stopped her normal life routine on March 29th, 2017. In fact, the last time someone physically saw Anna or actually heard her voice was on March 28th. There's a lot of evidence highlighted in our affidavit of probable cause here. And in the limited time that we have today, what I want to do is highlight a few of those pieces of evidence now. First, Anna's Audi was discovered near the family home, within about a 2-mile driving distance. Law enforcement was able to search the car's internal data information and learned that the car had never been driven, let alone started, on April 10th, as the defendant reported. Next, Anna's cell phone had messages on it that were simply out of character for her. On March 30th, Anna, who spoke perfect Polish because she grew up in Poland, sent a text message to her father on that day, wishing him a happy birthday. The problem is, the Polish grammar doesn't make sense. It's off. And police were able to later learn that someone had researched how to make that exact message via Google Translate. Anna had no reason to use Google Translate. And most importantly, all the interviews over the course of 8 years demonstrate that Anna was a devoted mother, a devoted sister, and in particular, she loved her family. There's nothing to indicate that she would stop corresponding with her family, stop spending any amount of money to go visit them, and essentially abandon her son. It simply doesn't make any common sense. So these are just a few of the many facts that, when you put them all together, establish what we are going to present to the jury. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt. I want to commend the state police for their determined 8-year investigation in this case. It would have been really easy to call this case cold. But they didn't. They left no stone unturned. They worked with a fabulous team of prosecutors. And today we take another step forward in getting justice for Anna. I'm happy to take any of your questions.
What do you think the motive was? Have you established a motive for this? Yeah.
So as detailed in the affidavit, the defendant attempted to characterize him as having a good relationship with Anna. We've recovered documents and interviewed witnesses that suggest that they had a difficult marriage at the time of this. There were divorce papers that were found in the defendant's home at times, suggesting that he knew about the status of their marriage, and so that's one of the reasons why, among many possible reasons why this deteriorated like this. And it's something we see in law enforcement, right? That in relationships that are verbally or physically abusive, it's that critical point when someone's ready to leave, where women in particular are most at risk.
Was there physical violence in this relationship?
I mean, we haven't determined necessarily physical violence, but certainly there were a lot of very strenuous arguments in this relationship. Those happen in normal relationships sometimes, but we intend to show the jury that this relationship was in trouble and the defendant knew it.
The papers, were they filed in court or were they preliminary?
They were preliminary.
And were they hers or his?
I can't remember. If it's not in the affidavit, we can get back to you on that answer.
And a question about the timeline. So we haven't had the benefit of reading the 36-page document.
Understood.
But in the time that has passed, there were some initial suspicions, and those suspicions are what they are. Your team is up there to make a case here. What were some of the hurdles? What were some of the procedures and processes that frustrated the investigation in the time that it took?
Well, this is a unique case, right? Almost all of our homicides, and certainly in this county's history, I can't remember a case where we had not found the physical body of the victim. We still have not found the physical body of Anna, right? And these are a type of case in our industry that we call sometimes no body cases. They're rare prosecutions. They take a lot of work. You have to uncover every stone. You have to make sure that you have it right. We've done that here, but it simply takes time.
You highlighted some of the key pieces of evidence. I know some of that was known a couple of years ago. Was there one key piece that came to fruition recently that kind of cracked the case, or there's just kind of a culmination of everything?
No, we wanted to exhaust everything in this, right? We wanted to make sure that we use technology from 2024 and 2025 that wasn't in existence in 2017. We wanted to make sure that it's not just about prosecuting people because we have strong feelings that they did it. We have to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. And before we do that in a case that is as expansive as this, we have to make sure that we've covered all of our bases. And it's really about understanding the evidence and understanding how it fits together and making sure we could present it.
Did retesting of DNA evidence play a part in this without her body being found?
No.
As you were advancing towards making a first-degree murder charge here, right? At any point, did your team reach out to the defendant and make an offer in exchange for to locate the remains?
No. I mean, we're here to charge him. We will see how the process plays out now that he's been charged.
Is there any direct evidence linking the husband to the murder? I mean, you talk about cell phones and text messages and troubled marriage, but other than that, is there direct evidence that
And suggesting we plan to argue at trial that the direct evidence is all of his lies about her disappearance that don't make sense. You don't get to say that you saw her drive away on April 10th and the car didn't start that day, right? So this is not just about like one piece of evidence. And I can't go through every example of the little things, right? But when you take the totality of this evidence, it just demonstrates, right, that he was being incredibly deceptive about where his wife was. And the only reason for that is that he killed her.
Has he given you any indication on how she might have died?
I have ethical constraints about whether I can confirm or deny. I talk about what people say after they're arrested. So unfortunately, right now, I'm not able to comment on whether he gave a statement or not after the fact.
So she's last heard from on March 28th. What is the last day that you believe he was fabricating her existence? How long did that go on for?
It went on until he reported it until April 12th.
Was he always he was a person of interest from the start of this case, but when did you say that this guy is...
So I want to be a little careful with that, right?
Sure.
Like I think in any missing person case, right, investigators walk in thinking it's a missing person case, but they don't dispel the fact that there's some foul play by someone who's close to the person that's missing, right? So trained, skilled investigators like this team here, they keep their options open for everything. But I don't think they walked into his house day one and said, like, you absolutely did this. That's not the approach that the Pennsylvania State Police took here.
And do you believe he acted alone, or could there be other arrests in this case later on down the line?
We'll always be investigating right now with the evidence that we have. Like, unless something changes, this is the arrest.
Did he resist at all or anything like that when you guys took him in?
Taken into custody without incident.
He just showed up at the house today and brought him in.
I'm not going to talk about the specific tactics and where we decided or how we decided to do it, but he was taken into custody without incident.
At his home, did I miss that?
It was not at his home. He was taken into custody without incident.
Was there any search warrants recently, searches recently that led to this? I know there were searches over the past few years. Is there anything recent that led to this, or again, it was just
There's a lot of interviews, a lot of. When you take something this expansive, we have to also play it out and make sure that we can deal with a prelim in a week or two, right? And we have to deal with a trial potentially in as little as 2 or 3 months. So it is truly a team effort about making sure that we can get through the entire process. No one in this office and no one in the state police is about arresting people without getting a conviction on the back end. We have a thorough process that we followed here, and I'm really proud of the work that everybody did.
You kind of briefly talked about this answering Joe's question, but how difficult does it make it to prosecute a person when you don't have a body versus you found a body?
Yeah, there's a reason why these cases are incredibly rare, right? Because you certainly need time to disprove that they didn't just try to go off the grid for a few months or go somewhere else, right? But evidence here shows she hasn't touched any of her life savings in 8 years, right? You can only build that as a compelling piece of evidence if you allow time to pass.
Are you hopeful that you'll find her at some point?
Absolutely. I mean, we always would like to bring finality to the family in Poland, to everyone. I mean, the community really came together. If you remember back in 2017, I lived in the area. I wasn't saying that I was, I think there's just a lot of pain in the community to see a young child's mother disappear like this. Citizens were out looking for her themselves. And so we would love for that to happen at some point, but we have to let the process play out.
And can you just talk about the detectives on this case and just working, from 2017 until 2025, not giving up on this case?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jason and David, I know at some point, right, like any good team, right, you kind of want to strangle each other at some point. It's like, well, what about this? What about that? And it doesn't help, right, that we all have, there's been turnover in the DA's office, right? This case spanned two other administrations. But they're consummate professionals who worked with Michelle and Jess most recently to really answer all of our questions, right? And make sure that we felt like we had all our bases covered.
And you were talking about turnover, are these guys been the same detectives on the case from day one?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's a tribute to state police leadership, I'll say that as well, right? To the idea that they gave them, when they spoke and said, like, I want to keep working this, to give them the breath and the freedom to be able to continue to pursue this, right? But like that's a tribute to an entire administration that is not willing to give up, and I want to congratulate them for that. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
All right, if there's any other questions or concerns that come up, you can please continue to communicate through Dana. I know we're still trying to get everything together and release information.